Welcome, everybody.
Whoa, look at all those familiar faces, or at least names. I can't see your
Isn't
faces,
that
which is probably.
that's fantastic? Oh my gosh, look at everybody. Fabulous, everybody. Thank
Oh,
you for
thank you for coming. Yeah, this is
yay.
great.
I'm Rebecca, and that is oops, this way.
Sarah, yeah, I'm have not quite figured out this camera thing, but I'm sure it will all make sense eventually.
We made the camera so you all could see the words that Sarah's weaving, not so that it made sense to us. So we're all backwards, which is okay. Well, welcome to this fun little chat. Sarah and I have just come together to talk about Fringeless, Four-selvedge Warping, but also other tapestry stuff and whatever you all ask. So, um, yeah, that's fun. I often will just go through and look at where everybody's from. Y'all are, I'm not going to say everybody here because there's so many of you. Irene's here from Scotland, though, and we've got people from Indiana and Illinois, and Hilly's here from the Netherlands and Denmark.
Ah,
Um, Maryland, Wisconsin. Elaine's here from Johnstown, Colorado. Used to be close to where I lived. Barcelona, Francesca, welcome. I'm not well, it sounds like I'm picking out all the international people. I'm just thrilled that y'all are here because you know, it's fun. But all of you here from the States also is wonderful. Christine, hello from Vancouver Island, BC. Yeah, New Zealand. Sally
goodness
is here.
gracious.
Your
What
friend
awful
Sally.
time zones are you all in?
I know. Julia's here from Germany, and Jill from Kalamazoo, Michigan. I know that place. Gloria from Longmont, San Diego, New York, Illinois. I'm going to miss a whole bunch of you all. Um, Catalina's here from Menorca, which is awesome. My Spanish is not good, Catalina. I'm sorry, but welcome. Margaret is here from Scotland. Y'all are just fantastic. Kansas, Canada, USA. You don't want me to go through all of them, but Kristen is here from Alaska, Haines, Alaska. That's gotta be cold.
And all the
Wales.
neighbors in Oregon. I'm always happy to see people from Oregon just because it's, almost next door.
Yes, you're all in the Palouse.
Oh, and Washington State, even closer. Yay.
Yes, very cool. Welcome, everybody. We're so glad you're here. Um, we have, just so you know, this is Cyber Monday and there is a discount on the Fringeless class. We'll talk about that quite a bit. So that will be 20% off, and you can get that code. You can grab it right now, or I'll put it up again at the end of well, you probably didn't see that. I'll put it up again at the end of the broadcast.
Could leave it up there for a little bit because it
Okay.
doesn't.
People might
Somebody
want, it
could
doesn't
weave it,
matter.
actually. It would be, you
You
could
could,
weave that,
you could.
and then they think it was good forever.
I should have done that, but no. The code is
Yeah.
not good forever. It's just good for a few days. So jump in if you would like to join us in the class. Oh my gosh, I'm so glad to see all of you coming in. Kiki's here from Germany and Karen from Colorado, Steamboat Springs. Awesome. Suzanne's here from Canada. Hi, Suzanne. Mary Lou from Cape Cod. Ulrika from Wisconsin. Canada and
From
New Brunswick.
a
In
campground in
Arizona.
Arizona. That's awesome.
Welcome. Welcome, Carrie. We're very much on top of that. We like to camp.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out the internet situation in a campground, but I'm sure it's great.
Okay, so I'm not sure that I would be able to change this, but if there is a really weird audio problem, like I had on another interview I did last year, would someone please tell me? We have tested this. We think it's working great, but we might not know. So if you hear like a really weird echo or something, please say. All right. Well, Sarah, do you want to sort of say a little bit about where you live and, what you're doing in the world of fiber?
Well, I never know what I'm doing or I know what I'm doing now. I never know what I'm going to do next. So it's hard to sum it up, but, I'm live in Moscow, Idaho, which is on the Palouse in north central Idaho, where it kind of, how do I get my hands in front of the camera? It comes in at the side like this, and it's sort of north central is what they call it. We're on Seattle time. We pretend we're in the Pacific, but not really. We're definitely not. And I make stuff with yarn and write about it every week on my Substack thing called The Gusset. But what I write about is often about my dog, Beryl, who is snoozing now, but she will probably come say hi at some point. And I mostly weave tapestries, but I also knit and make clothes. And I just made something awesome for Beryl, which you'll get to see tomorrow on The Gusset. But if it all goes, but that's a surprise, so I can't tell you today what that is going to be. Oh, did I just freeze?
You had a little we're having a little tiny internet glitchy thing. I think YouTube's pretty good about sort of catching up. So
okay, so hopefully that will be okay. I'm not as used to this as Rebecca, who does her fantastic Change the Shed every week, and so is really used to being live on camera in front of you instead of like through comics. I draw my comic self, you all know a lot, but you don't see my actual self quite as often.
You do get more used to just making mistakes and going with it on the fly. So,
well, apparently I make very slow mistakes, because anybody who actually reads The Gusset will know that I wove a misspelled word, and I spent a couple of days doing it, and I never noticed it was misspelled until after I had finished weaving it. So I'm not really good with the fast mistakes, but I rock at the really, really slow tapestry paste errors. The permanent ones you can't undo.
right. That is fantastic. Awesome. Well, we had a lot of
And
fun
you, Rebecca,
making.
for people who are here from my end, what you
Yes.
talk about what you do.
Um, I wrote on my notes, Rebecca, same. What I do is not the same as Sarah, but we do have a lot of fun laughing about tapestry. So I teach online, teach tapestry weaving online. I teach some in person, and I wrote a book called The Art of Tapestry Weaving. And I do some weaving on big pieces, and I weave a lot of little pieces. And I run around and teach sometimes, and like to make things out of fiber. So it's a fun life, and I'm pretty lucky to be able to do it. Thanks to all of you who are watching.
Ditto.
Really, yes, very much. We appreciate your support for the things that we love to play with, and hopefully, our teaching and writing makes a difference for all of you too. So, yes. Oh, Jessica wants to know what word you misspelled, Sarah.
Shall I show it to you? I have to turn this. I have a loom behind me. I'm going to turn it around. It's a great big pipe loom. Oh, can you even see? No, you can't actually see it because it's underneath the bottom of the loom. But the word is just going under. See, I'll bring you down here. It's crotchety. So I forgot the T in crotchety. And if it goes around underneath there, I actually connected the word crotchety. What was the word? Oh, with the word radical. And the word radical has an I in it. So I spelled crotchety without the T and with an I instead of an E. So instead of
Nice.
CROTCHETY, I did CROCHITY. See, I can't even spell what I'm talking, apparently. I only work at very slow things, but rest
Awesome.
assured that I have looked up every single other word that I will leave from now. But I luckily didn't get too crotchety about misspelling crotchety. I decided it's a feature, and tapestry is nothing if not us being ourselves all over the place with yarn. I mean, if there's any place we get to be utterly ourselves, it is in our tapestries and in our handwork. And by golly, that's me, because I have never been a good speller. And sometimes I get so engrossed in the work and the tapestry sucks me in, and I forget to look things up. and open my dictionary. Like
Well,
the good girl
here's
I should be.
Sivia. Thank you. This is what Sivia says. You're allowed to take liberties. Poetic license. I like it.
Oh,
Okay, so you guys, we don't know why that's happening. I think that I updated the platform that I'm using, the program that I'm using to do this, and there's probably a button somewhere to turn that off. But Sarah keeps saying things that's causing like fireworks or balloons or things. So I'm sorry. I don't know why it's doing that. We're just gonna have to go with
this is
it.
us being ourselves all over live YouTube, apparently.
Yeah. I love the fireworks. That was great.
That was
Uh,
pretty good.
awesome.
Disconcerting, though.
Yeah, it's a little bit weird. So let's talk about a little bit just about the fringeless class. If anybody doesn't really know what that is, it's a warping technique. And so why would we want to do, well, here, I'll show, I mean, fringeless just means that you end up with a little piece that doesn't have any hems on it, and it doesn't have fringe like this one. So, do you want to talk a little bit about why you would do fringeless, Sarah?
Yeah, well, there's two pieces to the structural why. One is that you end up with a piece that essentially has no finish work. You release it from the loom and you have this discrete, nice little tidy thing with your warps. Yeah, it's nice that we both hold them up at the same time. But
Right.
what you get while you're weaving is you get a big shed the entire time. So, whoops, let's see if I can get this in front of the camera. Did we go up? Yes. So here you can see the white part is the actual shape this tapestry will be. But even when I'm weaving right up here, I can open this great big shed way up here, which makes the weaving really, really pleasant the entire time. And as a person who gets a little involved with her work, and will spend many hours over the last 35 years sitting in front of a loom. Every bit of tension that you can not add to your hands is really important. And I've found now that my hands are old and quite crotchety, they are crotchety, with or without a T and an I and an E. They really work best and longest if the weaving itself is as pleasant and low key as possible. And having the ability to make a really big shed for all of the weaving so that you don't have a lot of stress on your fingers as you're opening each shed, and then also not to waste any warp to get that big shed, because you could do a different warping technique and have a lovely shed. But if your piece was only going to be this big, all of the stuff at the top would be loom waste, and then you would be cutting it off. And this way there is zero waste essentially, except for maybe 6 inches at the beginning and the end. It also means you can make with these little discrete units. Well, there's a million things we were going to talk about, but little experiments. It's very fun to do these experiments that end up being like these were paper weaving experiments. And because they end up being just sort of charming little things that I actually like to handle and have around, they could, in fact, like Rebecca's, although they do not have adorable gnomes on them, they could be Christmas tree ornaments, or they could be a part of a mobile. They can be almost anything. You can also make things like these bangles that I made, which are essentially, I'm going to unbutton this one, and you can see that it's basically a long, narrow strip of tapestry. Whoops, turn it around this way so you can see, with a button on one end and a slit, because, we weave slit tapestry if we want to. Whoops, but that's so you can see the light through. There's a little slit, and that makes a buttonhole. And the edges, where is that? Sorry, I'm
Yeah.
so unpracticed at this camera thing. There's the two ends, which are the same on both sides. So there's no fringe, there's no lumpiness, there's no having to deal with whatever. And then you can button it up and Well, actually, I could have buttoned it around my hand if it was bigger. Um, and then you have fiber jewelry, which, is pretty terrific because it's very quiet and you can wear it on live on camera and it doesn't interfere with the microphones. Um,
And there's a pattern for those bracelets in the class, right, Sarah?
Oh, right. Yes, there is. There is actually. And there's a million other things a person could, you could make little tiny earrings if you wanted to. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not even a jewelry maker, wearer, but it is fun to decorate yourself. And it's oddly helpful to have these clean little crisp things that even commercial fabric you can't get. You'd have to hem commercial fabric. There's nothing I can think of except maybe, I don't know what. A crocheted thing. You could do a crocheted thing without ends because you'd have
Right.
one little loop at the end. So that's a technique where you could get something that shape. But very few woven fabric structures where you have a discrete little unit that you can do anything with. You can put different wefts, whoops, or you, oh, God, I'm sorry, this backwards thing is driving me mad.
Okay.
But you could experiment with things and then you can hang them on the, or in a frame in a way that is really, again, really clean and crisp. And if you happen to be like that look, it's about the only way I know to get there with a woven structure.
So Patricia asked, can you reuse the warp above the tapestry warp for another fringeless little tapestry? Which you were getting at.
Again, your pieces show it really well. Your different color bits
Oh,
of
yeah.
supplemental warp.
Here, let me show you really quick. I do have another camera here. So this is a fringeless piece I've been doing on Change the Shed, and this is the piece. And then you can see this is fly line backing, which is something Sarah uses. And so the orange and the white, and that's why there's knots in it, is that I've just reused it over and over and over, as well as this supplemental warp at the bottom. So that's a really good thing about, let's see if I can get us back here. A really good thing about, I could have just done this actually. So the orange and the white are the fringeless for selvage. Sorry about all the blue tape. I'm quite addicted to blue tape. And so all of my fringeless looms have blue tape all over them. So yes, that's a great question, Patricia. You can just reuse. The fly line backing is really nice. Sarah used this, and so I started using it because it's woven, right? It's not twisted. So
I
you
think
can,
so.
it doesn't get all weird and crinkly like a regular plied warp would. And so it's really nice for this because it goes in and out easily and it's so strong. You can just keep using it.
And
You
it's
don't have to
fine. And
use it.
yeah, you could use seine twine or pretty much anything you have. I think we talk about using different stuff. In fact, I think we demonstrate some different supplemental warp materials in the class, and I
Yeah.
can't remember what they all are. But for the last N years, I've also used flyline backing, and you can see again, I don't have multicolored ones at this point, but I have knots. Although I will say this used to be white, and I've used it so much that over the
Ah,
years it's gotten a little grubby because this is actually where my hands are all the time when I'm opening the sheds, and I don't wash my flatland backing, I have to say.
so
Um,
um, I just lost my rabbit. Oh my gosh. Um, oh, Nancy wanted to know that piece you just held up, which I think is the finished one with the house. Is there sumac in that piece? I think she's looking at the bottom,
no,
maybe.
so what you're looking at the bottom, if I can show you, that's actually just plain weave. I doubled the warp. So I think this is up here is set at 8, and then I used it at a set of 4 because what I'm weaving with there, if you can see, is cordage that I made with iris leaves and daylily leaves. And it's quite thick, so it's significantly thicker than the rest of this is linen, although the house itself, um, oops, where is that?
There you go. Yep. There you go.
Is I think it's a different daylily or a different iris. When I was doing these a lot, I got really obsessed walking around town with different colors of dead leaves, long, narrow dead leaves. And so I would make I'd make the cordage for whatever, just so I had a whole range of colors, because of course we're tapestry weavers, we want a whole range of colors most of the time. And if your material is dead leaves, then that's what you're going to do. So these are all different weights too. I actually got started a little heavier at the bottom, and the cordage got thinner toward the top, which when you're making your own cordage is the thing you can control. So it looks like sumac, it looks like a different structure, and it feels a little different. It's quite stiff. It's more stiff than the linen, which is up here. But that's what it is, just plain weave, over, under, over, under. The same with this one. You can see it a little better with that one. You can see a difference. I think the little shed thing I think it's just strips of dead leaf. It isn't even made into twisted into cordage, and the stuff in the bottom is twisted into cordage.
So all those marvelous things Sarah plays with, you can read about on the Gusset, which is her new Substack newsletter. You should absolutely sign up for it. It's magical. So it's called the Gusset. If you go, I should have put your website up here. Sarah's website is a field guide to needlework.com. So I will type that in a minute and put it up. But Patricia was saying fly line backing or what for the supplemental, and I think we used in the class cotton seine twine. We might have used a cotton crochet cotton. I think you used
some
point.
of well, actually, it's the same stuff that I have on my my leashy heddles here, which is pearl cotton. It's pearl cotton.
Pearl cotton.
Yeah, that it's mercerized or something. Something I got at a yard sale one time and have used ridiculously a lot, because it's strong. It's very strong, and it's shiny, and it's smooth. So it makes actually rather a nice thing to work with, and it's very pleasant with your hands. And I would say, whatever you're going to use for supplemental warp, you want something that will feel good in your hands. And that's actually one of the nice parts about the fly line backing, is it's smooth. But when your hands are in there all the time, whether you're finger picking or not, you still have to touch it. And so you might as well touch stuff that you like the feeling of. Which makes me think of the Mirix loom, because you have I never have other than occasionally this for long warps, and then I use just sticks for an open shed. So I generally finger pick my second shed, but you often use a Mirix, both with fringeless and if you do fringeless on a Mirix. Can I say this?
Yes. Yes. So this is one, you all have seen this on Change the Shed too, if you've been watching Change the Shed, but this is a Mirix Zac. So it's the 22-inch loom, and I have it for fringeless, and you'll see here at the bottom, because the beam is so wide on the Mirix, you get a little bit wider triangle there, but it works just the same at the top. I just have some shed sticks at the top to even out the shed. And then I don't actually have the shedding device on here, but you can use the shedding device on a fringeless warp. I talk about the Mirix looms a lot in the class. There's a lot of extra bonus videos about how to do fringeless with a Mirix. I don't like the treadle is the one thing I like the treadle in general, but they have an electric treadle and it moves really fast. And so the way the fringeless warps work is it doubles the warp and it makes these big loops. And that quick motion of the treadle skews the warps. And so you end up with everything all jiggity, as Sarah says.
Yeah.
So you don't want the jiggity stuff.
Yeah. If you want the jiggity, you could do that deliberately. And that is a thing that occasionally is handy if you happen to be weaving a tapestry that's copying a piece of paper with a torn off top, and you want the jiggity torn off top look, like that giant tapestry there, that's actually Four-selvedge, and I can't even remember now, 6.5 feet tall and 2 feet wide or something like that. And I did that as a continuous warp Four-selvedge, which is a complicated thing I don't want to go into, but if you understand a continuous warp and Four-selvedge is figure outable. But I was going for the jiggity top deliberately because it's supposed to look like a receipt that was torn out of a machine and is slightly jaggedy. Or it could be that I decided that afterwards when the top came out jaggedy. It's hard to know, actually, the order of decision making about artistic license.
These pieces are part of her rough copy series, and they're amazing. And you can find them on her website, which is right here, Field Guide to Needlework, under archive, maybe.
Yeah, yeah. 20,
One of
there's,
the
there's like 2009 to 2013 or something, because it was a 4-year endeavor weaving
They're
those.
very
A
cool.
lot
You
of
should
words.
go look at them. Yeah, go
A
look
lot
at
of.
those. Patricia actually meant, which I misunderstood. Sorry, Patricia. What is fly line backing and where you get it?
Oh, well, let's see. I might have some in my plastic bag. Oh, warp stuff. I think I have. I thought I had. Oh, maybe it's in here. Yes, because it's always good to store things in things you buy your merino underwear in. When your merino underwear comes in a really nice slidey cardboard box, you can use it for so many things. This is the most recent fly line backing I bought. Let's see if I went to an outdoor store. It's not the same kind I used to have, and I was kind of mad at that store that they didn't have the stuff I was used to. But this stuff was actually very nice to use. Unfortunately, they only had it in this chartreuse color, which can be upsetting because it comes seemingly in bright orange, chartreuse, and white, and I usually aim for the white.
Right.
But if you go to almost any fishing store, they will probably have fly line backing, and I think the point of it is to give you extra casting yardage that doesn't take up a lot of space on your reel if you're fishing. So you can have all this for playing your fish or whatever you do when you're fishing. You need yardage, but you don't want your whole reel to be stuffed with um, with stuff that doesn't matter. It's strong, but it's not. It doesn't do all the other things that proper fishing line does, whatever that might be.
Cool. Okay. And we talk about the weights of the fly line backing in the class too. You can get it in different weights. It just means how thick it is. It probably doesn't matter all that much, but 20 or 30 pound, I think, is what we've been using. Carrie was talking about Navajo style fringeless. And so I just wanted to mention, I see a lot of people weaving. This is a Murex Chloe loom. And I will tell you right now that this or the saffron really don't work well for fringeless. I know that's a question a lot of people are going to ask. It is a tensioned loom. You have to have a tensioned frame loom to do fringeless. The issue with this, there's probably a way you could use this for fringeless, but it's quite short. You'd want a longer bar on it. What I see people doing a lot is weaving from the very bottom, like Navajo. Carrie was bringing up Navajo style weaving, which is amazing and very difficult, honestly. They weave from here all the way to the top. This would be like a modified Navajo style. They don't use peg looms. They use, let's see, I just happen to have this loom sitting there. This is a
Oh,
Navajo style loom where you weave from the bottom all the way to the very, very top. And the reason this is not finished is because that last half inch is, it's just what we were talking about in terms of having a shed the whole way. So I am obviously not a Navajo weaver, although I live near a lot of them, and it's really fun that was from a class that I took with a Navajo weaver. It was very fun. So um, that's the difference in fringeless and a four-selvage technique that doesn't have a shed the whole way. The beauty of it is that you have this super flexible shed. This shed is open all the way to the top. So that is why we love it.
yeah.
Okay, that's a great comment there, Carrie. Thank you. Oh, Sue asked, can you use the Glimacra Freja loom? I actually saw mine yesterday and was going to pull it down and I didn't. I think the Freja would work. That is a wooden frame loom and it has a tensioning device on it, so that's good. The issue is that it also has pegs, so it's a little bit fussier, I think, to warp because you have to get this, it only comes in one set. So that's just my thought on that. I think it's possible. It's just maybe wouldn't be my first choice, but you might be able to warp it without using the pegs as well. Yes, Tamara, fishing fly line. So it's the first time I've ever been in a fishing store is when I went to buy fly line backing. So you can also get it on the internet if you really want white, which I highly recommend. Yeah. Um, oh, Leslie, this is a great question, Leslie. Sarah, what made you even look for a fishing line as a warp?
It was my husband's idea. Uh, I think I know, actually he mentioned the backing, and I think that Michael Rohde, who you might want to show Michael's loom, we could talk about. Michael was one of the sort of part of the pathway for me to learn this technique. I started out with Susan Martin Maffei. I took a workshop from her, and she has a technique, a four-selvage technique, which is essentially the same thing. She just does she approaches the warping slightly differently than we do. And Michael Rohde, who's also amazing tapestry weaver. Both of these people are, I revere their work. Michael came up with this idea of the jig, and you have a Michael Rohde loom,
Here's the
and I have a
loom.
Michael Rohde jig. So let me just, I'm going to take this. Michael makes his jigs, he puts Velcro on them so you can Velcro your jig to the loom while you're making the warp. So this is a Michael Rohde one. It's
We go in
basically a
here.
stick with holes in it. Oops, let's line up the tops and the bottoms here so they're the same. And he actually put top and bottom. Oops, that one has bottom there. Okay, I can't tell what I'm showing up. And anyway,
That's
and then
okay.
two little sticks, and he puts this tape on, and the tape has 1/8 inch marks on it, so that you can do your set without actually using a piece of blue tape and marking it with your marker, which is what Rebecca and I mostly do. So then you end up with putting these little things in the hole, and there's your jig.
And it goes
Now this
right in
can
here.
go all the way to different sizes, and I drilled a bunch of all these extra holes in it so I can make little tiny four-selvage warps. Whoops, let's see if I can do that. So I can adjust the different sizes I can make on here. And so this one makes little tiny 1.5 inch tapestries, which I don't, here, I can show you one. No, I can't. Where is it? Oh. For some reason, I can't find the little teeniest one, but I have some little teeny ones. This is about a 2-inch square one. I made them into little book covers. That's another, oops, golly, I will at the very end of this, to that. So this is just a little tiny book that I made with Coptic, a little Coptic binding, and it actually goes like this. And this is actually when this is kind of a weird story, but when my husband first found out he had cancer, he panicked because he has been the family cook for 30 years. And so we came home from the oncologist and he said, okay, this is how you make granola. This is how you make yogurt. This is how you make coffee. And I actually have all the little notes. I grabbed this notebook and wrote down all these little notes so that I could feed myself. He ended up doing great, and he is no longer with us, but he had a chance to make a lot more yogurt for me before he died.
Good.
So I didn't get a chance to put my notebook into action, but I treasure it because I just remember that moment, and having little tapestry notebooks that you can put precious important things like how many grams of coffee do you need per milliliters of water. And of course, I was not a gram and milliliter person even before that, but it turns out I have now become one.
Awesome.
And I only know how to make coffee in grams and milliliters.
That is okay. We should all be on the metric system, but we are not. A couple great other questions. Francesca asked, what about a frame loom? Would that work? So I think the key is that it has to be a tensioned frame loom, right?
Yep. Yeah. You could make if your frame loom is like a picture frame, so you have a fixed picture frame or a fixed frame, if you attach some kind of tensioning device, and you could do that by drilling holes and putting some threaded rod and attaching another bar at the top, and then you warp from the very top bar to the bottom bar, then you could actually make it tensioned. But it would be really hard on a fixed frame warp, because when you take the jig out, you lose a lot of the tension and it suddenly becomes floppy, and you really have to be able to then take up that tension. So a frame with a tension device would be fine, but otherwise probably not.
Yeah, so for small looms, like Sarah showed a loom like this little guy here, that's made with galvanized pipe, right? Or black pipe. And then, yes, just like that. And how did you make this loom? So it's adjustable, right, Sarah? Like the size of piece you can, or the size you can make the loom is
Yeah,
adjustable?
there's several pieces. This little pipe, this is 1/8 inch, and I have both black pipe here and galvanized because that's what I had. The tension device is this. It's a piece of threaded rod that sits inside um, the pieces of pipe. We have the instructions are all in the
Yeah.
class, but you can see here that because it only the biggest pieces this size comes in as 6 inches, I extended it. You can use a joiner, or I just used a T and to add a few extra inches, because I like the longest possible shed I can get. I also did the same on the warp beam. Let's see, I'll come back a little bit so you can see. So I added,
I don't know why it's doing.
it is now, they're so excited about the extension to the warp beam. Who knew YouTube knew about the thrill of adjusting your own warp beam? But there's a little extender rod here, and then I added another inch here. And what that just gives me is a little more hand room, especially if I'm weaving a wide piece, which would be on this loom. It's pretty much 5 inches is the top width. So it doesn't give me more weaving width, but it gives me a little bit of hand room around the edges of the place I'm weaving. And then the whole thing can come apart, and you can decide, oh, I want it shorter, and undo these pieces and just make the whole thing shorter. So it's quite nice that it's infinitely adjustable, as are any of these pipe looms. I mean, this one is built just of pieces that I have, and it's always a decision for me which pieces of pipe I'm going to use to build the loom with.
There's a funny bit in the class, which I won't tell you the answer to, about what Sarah does with her pipe when she is not using it in a loom. So you have to watch the class to see that. But basically, galvanized or black pipe, copper pipe, or PVC pipe are all great options, and we have plans for all of those in the class too. Okay, so I have not missed your question, Mary, about jigs. Should we talk a little bit more about jigs? Um, we have found, we've taught this class now for 6 years, and we have found that the biggest anxiety people have are making jigs. So there used to be someone who made them for sale, and I don't know of anybody who does it anymore, but I'm telling you, you all can make a jig. And this is the easiest one, in my opinion, is besides the strap and bar jig. If you want to make replicable sizes, so the same size every time, this is just a 1/2 inch PVC pipe that it comes apart into little pieces. And I have a whole bag of different size pieces so I can make different tapestries. This is the jig that I use the most. And you just make it. This is a great tool. This is a PVC cutter. It might have been $12, and it will cut PVC like it's butter. You don't even have to be, well, I don't want to say don't have to be that strong. I'm not very strong, and I don't have any trouble cutting the PVC with this. So this would be my recommendation for a really easy jig. But Sarah, I think, has some other. You have the wood. Do you have the wooden jig with the holes in it? If
Oh, I
you
have a,
know,
yeah. If you know someone who
somebody,
has a drill or a drill press, my son made me this one. Again, the glory of two-sided Velcro. I keep
Velcro.
these straps strapping the finished jig to holding it still on the loom. So I have those just hold this little bundle together. And the bundle is basically, let's see, get back here a little bit. Two sticks. You can see they are rather rough pieces of plywood. They, you know, um, drilled, roughly drilled at, I don't know, I think those are about 2 inches apart. So those are all the different sizes I can make. And then dowels, cut dowels that just fit in. And I have to say that these dowels, the way the dowels fit, um, depends on the humidity, the current humidity. Right now it's very dry here, so that the dowels are super loose and they might come apart. So I've learned, I have a gas stove and I put a pot of water on top of it. So before I put my jig together, I dunk the ends in the pot of warm water and they swell just enough to hold the jig together while I'm warping. And then when it's time to take the jig off, it's dried a little bit and I can take it apart really easily. But it is important that it's a snug fit and water is your friend. That's one of the benefits of PVC is that it is not affected by humidity. So it's not going to change. There's also the strap and loop method, or the strap and bar method, which again we talk about and demonstrate in the class. And in that case, you basically hang a stick from your frame, from your loom, with a camping strap, some kind of a strap, and you hang another strap from the bottom, and then you attach the two straps. The drawback to that is repeatability, but it's very efficient, and it's actually what I do for anything bigger than what this jig will create. So for a large tapestry, it's all sticks. In fact, I think if I move my there, you can
Yeah.
see my collection O sticks in the corner because every weaver needs a collection O sticks. And I will find whatever sticks I happen to want and use these camping straps. Now, recently in the class, we've had some people talk about using Texolve material. And if you are familiar with Texolve, if you're not familiar with Texolve, it's, what is it, woven nylon with holes
It's
in it, like
yeah.
buttonholes.
It's yeah, it's used a lot by floor loom weavers for your tie up for your treadles. It has little loops every so often, and often you can get these pegs so you can make it the same size every time, and just use a plastic peg to connect it together. And it's very strong. It's
So
probably nylon.
yeah, it would be really easy to use Texolve heddles, count the loops that you have hanging down, stick your bar across, stick another piece of Texolve on, and then attach it to the bottom, and it would make a very consistent jig. Now, that said, to keep you from having to buy this expensive stuff that you don't otherwise have on hand, you also could take some string, like from the hardware store, nice, or seine twine, because you're a weaver and you might happen to have seine twine around, and you could make yourself pieces of like loops with knots in them, and you could do them around chair legs or something fixed, so you could make several that are exactly the same and tie knots and put your stick in there and make a very consistent jig where your thing literally comes apart and you don't have any hard side pieces. That particular idea is now, we're just saying it. We don't have, that is not in the class, but maybe I should do a drawing and we should add that up,
Yeah,
because
drawing
that
would
would
be
be
great.
nice to have as an alternative. Just like, here's a way to make a jigless jig that is consistent so that you could do a series, because, says Sarah, finding the perfect segue, uh, for a series of tapestries, over 100 tapestries, that are all exactly the same size. Well, actually, no, that's not true, because I use two different looms and two different jigs. So some of them are from one jig, and some of them are from this jig, and some of them from the Michael Rohde jig. But these are my four-selvage, four four-letter word tapestries. So for instance, here are some T's. So we have text and time and thaw and tree. And why it is important to have so many of these, I do not know, but I call it the 99 noun series. And I have a lot of them. And there's a lot of weaving words as well. But if I wanted them all to be essentially the same size. Let's see, actually, if I can find one. I think, where are they? But you can talk, Rebecca, while I look. Oh, so here's the smaller one. This is from the smaller jig. And there's size, you can see. So
Yeah.
that's better.
There
There
you
we
go.
go.
Oh yeah, a little bit different.
So you can see they're similar, but ever so slightly different height-wise because of the size of the jig. So but they're that consistent, so that everyone on the one jig is exactly this size, and everyone on the other jig is exactly this size.
So that's an advantage of the fringeless technique as well. And
Not
Sarah
only
talks
good
about,
shed.
and a good shed. Nice. Sarah
Sorry
talks
about that.
about the stick and strap method of making a jig. And basically what we're saying is that you could make a bunch of tapestries the same size using this texel or tied string idea. Just an extension of the stick and strap jig, which is in the class.
Which brings me to something about the class, which is, you may have noticed, I wave my arms around a lot, and I'm not always don't move smoothly from point A to point B. So Rebecca very kindly goes into every single lesson and makes very specific videos about the things that I am not specific about. So if you're a little nervous that you're not going to be able to follow my instructions, rest assured that Rebecca makes sure that they are followable.
One thing I like about the class too is that all of the handouts were drawn by Sarah. So there's all these beautiful hand-drawn diagrams of how to do all the things. So those are really beautiful.
Thanks.
Yeah. So we have a question from our friend Sally Kay from Maine. What did you use for the jig and loom when you made those humongous tapestries? We knew someone would ask this. So just a brief. She's
I
asking about
use
this one.
the stick and strap method. I have a bucket. Maybe I should show you what I mean by strap.
Yes. This is something that I think we both have been using camping straps, but there's a lot of probably other ways you could do it too.
Let's see. This sort of thing that for tying sleeping bags
Yeah.
onto backpacks, or they look better rolled up, but it's just rolled up black stuff. And they're handy because they have a tightening mechanism. So you just feed the end through and crank on it, and you can get it really tight, and you can make really minute adjustments to the tension, which is where, if you're trying to tie like just with string in place in the moment, it's really hard to get things even. Whereas these things, you can make minute adjustments, which is where the other idea of making your own fixed length pieces of string ahead of time is a really good idea, because you don't have to tie knots in the moment while you're holding tension. But they're just, I don't know, again, like your camping store where they have the fly line backing. The only drawback is remembering how to thread the stuff through, but
So it
they
tightens.
probably have a.
So Mary followed up with, how do you deal with the fear of jig making when you are lousy at drilling or measuring? And I'm going to say, Mary, make one of these, because the only thing you have to measure is making sure that these pieces are the same length. So you just measure them, make a mark, and then cut the PVC with one of these. Um, or do the one that Sarah was just talking about with the straps where you don't have to drill any holes at all. You just use the strap as a tightening device for 2 bars that are going to hold your tapestry warp. Hopefully that
And
makes sense.
and to follow up with Sally K's question, I actually
Oh,
used,
right.
in order to make it a continuous warp for the huge one, I did use the straps, but I had 4 sticks. I believe you need 4 sticks to make it a continuous warp, so that you can both do the jig and do the supplemental warp at the top and the bottom, and have it rotate. And getting all those things to work at once requires quite a few straps and so many places you can get your tension wrong. I can't even begin to tell you. But with care and time and a commitment to love of warping, you can do it.
So, Sally, we want to see you try and show us what you make. This we do not teach in the class because, as Sarah said, it's a little bit complicated, but that's how she made this great. Um, Sarah, we talk about ways to attach the jig to the copper pipe loom in the class. It usually involves rubber bands, or I often just use this, which is my perennial favorite, blue painter's tape, which comes in other colors, by the way. If you cannot get it to stay put with rubber bands, which sometimes I can't, this is what I use. Uh, let's see. What other questions have I missed here? Oh, Carrie says the fireworks are related to thumbs up. If the camera sees you making a thumbs up, it's set to do fireworks. So that's something with one of our, yeah, computers, I think. Oh, and Christine, thank you for saying this. So the music in the Fringeless class, can I tell them this, Sarah? So Sarah plays the concertina beautifully, and I really wanted to use her music in the class, and she was real shy about it. And so one morning she was practicing, and I just turned the recorder on, and she let me use the music in the class. So the music in the class is all played by Sarah, and it's lovely.
Thank you. I was an adult beginner musician, so I feel very shy about it. But it reminds me of all this stuff. I mean, learning a new technique, learning tapestry to begin with, learning a new warping technique, being a beginner at anything is so exciting and so terrifying, that it I don't know. That I like to do it to myself periodically, and I hadn't thought of that connection until you just said it just now. That how nervous I was about being recorded playing for this class that we were teaching, and it made me think of a conference I was once at where they had all the teachers on the first night do, what did they call it? They called it a talent show or something, but you were supposed to do something that you were really, really afraid of. And at that time, I was not yet playing the concertina. I was playing the fiddle. And so I said to her, well, I'm afraid to practice with my windows open in case my neighbor's here. Should I do that? And she was like, yes. So
I'm
for
just,
whatever reason, I did that.
I'm,
And it was terrifying.
I'm gonna guess that was Madrona and Stephanie Pearl McPhee was behind it.
Yes, that's exactly what that was about. And I did that night. I promised myself actually that if I made it through, I could switch to an instrument where intonation was not an issue, which is the concertina, which actually is better ergonomically for my hands anyway. But it was my intonation I was the most concerned about, because if you've ever heard an early violinist play the violin, it can be painful. So, yeah, and now if my instrument is out of tune, there's nothing I can do. Everybody has to tune to me. That's perfect.
Perfect. That seems great. Emily wants to give you a shout out, Sarah, for the gusset and all the beautiful comics and videos you include, along with
Oh,
your amazing, thoughtful meanderings. I love reading her work every week. I am also a big fan, Emily. I feel like y'all should go sign up for her website up at that over there in the corner, a field guide to needlework.com, you can find the gusset. It's magical. So
Great.
I agree, and many other people are agreeing. Um, so Mary asked, is the textile what Mirex uses for the heddles? Yes, that's the same material, but you can buy it in other lengths for other purposes. And I actually don't know where you would get it, but I could research that.
I bet Glamacra sells it.
Mhm.
Any
Yeah,
Glamacra.
I bet people sell it in loops. Like, I'm thinking that the kind that people use for tying up their loom treadles might be perfect. So we'll have to sort of play with that a little bit. Oh, Nancy
Yeah.
B says cable ties. That's another idea to
Oh,
use for a
yeah.
jig, cable ties. It's a good one. You could get those the same size. Elaine wants to know, would this work on a Leclerc Gobelin floor loom, which has tensioning and a shedding device? So I feel like Susan Martin Maffei does the three selvage or she does the four selvage where she lashes it all the way to the bottom bar. And that might be something to use on your Leclerc, Elaine. But I feel like you could do the top supplement. I have the same loom, is why I'm going on about it. But I feel like you probably could do the supplemental warp if you brought the top bar down to where you wanted, however high you wanted that warp. I think if you stabilized it with some ties from that bar down to the bottom while you were warping it, so I think it probably would work.
And the three selvage thing you mentioned actually is a
Another
variation
option.
that is actually pretty nice. And it's once you know the four selvage, doing a three selvage is like feels like a piece of cake. And that can be really nice because then you add a clean bottom. I think the tapestry here, whoops, this one here. So it has a complete as a three selvage, and then I didn't know how long it was going to be because it was a continuous warp. So it's I finished there's finishing stuff at the top
With
once
a
I
braid.
decided how. Yeah, with a braid, but getting three, and if that's really nice if you don't want to waste any warp too at the bottom, but that either requires you can do it using our technique or you can use Susan's, and you can see Susan's for selvage technique on her website, I believe.
Mhm.
And if you for alternate instructions, and I'm trying
That
to
could be.
remember what her current website is, we could
If you
find that out.
just Google Susan Martin Maffei,
Yeah.
Susan Martin and Maffei is Maffei. She has a great website with a lot of writing and stuff on it. But
And some really beautiful, really interesting tapestry work. And I'm particularly interested in it recently because she also is using a lot of, quote, alternative materials. I mean, anything other than wool really sometimes feels like an alternative material. But she's using some paper. She's been getting paper at, oh dear, now I can't think of the place. Um, there's some really interesting places that sell like some wild paper and other material yarn if you're not actually going to make it yourself. But and she's crocheted little things and done three-dimensional boxes and using lots of different forms with tapestry incorporated, and it's really
it's
interesting and a
very
high.
neat. Yeah, me too. So Margaret, thank you. Margaret has corrected our lack of knowledge of what textile is.
Oh,
Textile is thicker and a chain textile with eyelets. And so that's what I'm thinking of that does the tie up for that you put a little pin in it in the eyelet to adjust the length of the thing. So don't take what we say for gospel and do a little research. But I still think that the part that's chained with the eyelets will work for a jig. Sue asked, must the loom be vertical or can you lay it horizontal on a table? So all of my pipe looms, I lay horizontal when I'm weaving on them. Actually, this one I was weaving on the Change the Shed that was last week, and it was laying horizontal on the table. So you could go watch that episode and see it in process.
you can also put pipe looms on an easel, which can be really handy if you
Yeah.
don't want to like be holding it and you don't want it upright, or even more importantly, you don't want to be stuck with your chair table relationship, because a lot of times the relationship between the height of your lap or the chair and the table does not have your hands at a good height, for either for weaving, I mean, ergonomically, or comfortably, or just for your eyes or whatever. And an easel will sometimes grip these lovely little pipe looms because they're just rectangles,
Mhm.
no matter what material it's made out of. And then you can raise and lower the entire thing to get everything as comfortable. And you can often tilt them as well.
Tilt it.
So you could have a completely flat, you could have just a really shallow angle, you could have a steeper angle, whatever feels the most comfortable to you. And I think all of us, it behooves all of us, however old we are, at any point in our lives, to be as comfortable as we can be doing this thing that we
Yes.
love to do.
I have about four more ideas to go off on that on ergonomics, but ask in the class and we will talk about what kind of easels work and all of that.
Good idea.
Oh, Sivia said Eugene Textile Center sells it by the yard. So the textile. Thank you, Sivia.
No, yeah.
Sivia would know. So Eugene Textile Center is owned by Glamacra. So your thought on Glamacra was perfect, Sarah. Um, David, thanks, Dave. He says the gusset is a weekly treasure, which
Oh,
is true. And many people have agreed. Everybody's a fan, Sarah.
well,
Um,
I'll tell Beryl. That's
tell
my dog.
Beryl that she is the magic star of the gusset, but she just trots along. Often Sarah will have a video of Beryl going on a walk, so it's fun. Any other things we want to cover, Sarah? We're at about an hour, so we maybe can answer a couple more quick questions, but
Yeah.
I don't want to keep you all forever. And this is being recorded, so it will be live on YouTube immediately after we turn it off. So,
I see
um,
something about a music stand. Sue is asking about a music
uh-huh.
stand. I it depends on how strong the music stand is and how you would attach the loom to the music stand. You'd have to experiment, but
Yeah,
it could work. It depends. Yeah, some of the
I,
more flint ones feel a little dicey, like they wouldn't be satisfying to
I think
weave to pull.
the super strong ones that like orchestras use might work.
Mhm.
And they tilt nicely for a small loom, but like the flimsy one I have would never work.
Yeah.
So yes, Nan asked about putting the references in the video notes. I can put some of those in there. If you're in the class, of course, just ask questions in the class. So that is part of what we do in the Fringeless class is answer questions whenever you ask them, and it's yours forever. So as long as we're around anyway, I mean,
Yeah.
what's forever? But we do answer questions every day. So every weekday
Well,
for the most part.
I'm not always like right on it because I often don't look at my computer because I'm weaving or something. Um, but when I am, I absolutely want to focus, and I love answering the questions because there's so many good ones. And also, I love seeing your work because
It's
it's
great.
astonishing.
Yeah.
Um,
Pamela has a really good question. Pamela, you are persistent and thank you because she's asked at least 3 times now. And this is a fabulous question. What is the historical history of this technique? I know Susan Martin Maffei taught you. Is there an earlier history? And I don't have a long history about it. I think we talked about it a little bit in the class, but I believe Four-selvedge techniques have been used by many different cultures over time. Do you have any direction or thoughts about that, Sarah?
I wish I could remember now all that she told us in the class in the initial class, but I think there was a lot of ancient Peruvian weaving that was done using the Four-selvedge technique, some in ways that she technically could not figure out how it was done. She may have some of that information on her website. I can't remember for sure. But she definitely learned it. Well, I don't know that she definitely, no, I'm not sure for sure. She and Archie came up with the technique that they used. And I think whether it came initially from Susan or Archie, it was Susan who ran with it and then went back and did a whole lot of research in various places in South and Central America, I believe, pre-contact, really old textiles were woven using this, using some manner of fringeless technique. And whether the particular way that we do it, and or whether it was more Navajo-esque, I do not know. But it has been around a long time because people are smart and they came up with ideas of how to do things. And when you only have 3 tools and some sticks, you're probably going to find the smartest way to use those sticks there ever was, which is kind of what we do too, sticks and string. How many
I
things
think
can you do
there's
with?
sticks and string. There's definitely modern people in Central and South America who are doing those kind of warps. Have you all seen these where there's a great big frame and the warp is changing color and it's all looped, sort of like the Four-selvedge warps. So you can have blocks of warps that change colors. Talk about a fussy warping technique. But that idea is kind of similar. So I think there are, it comes from probably, yeah, Peru and other Central and South American cultures. Um, that's a great question, Pamela, and we can obviously delve into it more in the class too. If people have more ideas. Sarah, thank you for the clarification. I tend to just say, oh, Glamakra and Eugene Textile Center are owned by the same people, but apparently they are definitely separate entities, and I shouldn't be so flippant about saying that. They are our family members in common, but anyway, they're both great places to buy stuff from. So I apologize for that not being correct on that. Thank you, Pamela. She says the video instructions are so clear and thorough. Thanks for all your efforts. Jessica's asking about the dogs, Sarah. What do you think? Oh, and Michelle also.
Well, Beryl,
I'll see if I can find. Oh, let's see Beryl
come here.
here. I'm gonna
You want to
I'm
come
gonna go with just Sarah here, and we'll see. We'll give you more screen.
Oh, there's the Beryl. Whoops. She's a little big for an actual lap dog, but there you go, miss. She's like,
Ah,
what are we doing here? This is not our usual way of
ah,
getting along. Oh,
Beryl.
there's Beaumont.
Here's Bobo. Was sitting at the door. He's like, "Where is everybody?" And here's one more. When she heard that Beaumont was in the picture, she wanted to say hello too. So this is Sal. These dogs all appeared about the same time, right, Sarah?
Yeah, pretty much. It seemed like within a couple of months of each other, and they got to meet this summer or this fall.
Yes, yes. Sally got along pretty well with Beryl. She wanted to play, and Beryl was like, I don't know.
Beau was not so
Beau,
into her.
Beaumont's not the best with other dogs, but yeah. I was going to say he has good intentions, but he really doesn't. So he loves people, some people. So there is your little dog fix. Uh, let's just see. Any other last things we wanted to say, Sarah? What did we miss?
Gosh, probably we had an outline, but I haven't even looked at it, so I have no
I
idea.
I believe we hit everything on the outline. So yay us.
Yeah.
The code for 20% off for the Fringeless class, if you want to join us online, is this one, Pipeloom 24 with the L capitalized. And yeah, today is the day of the sale of all my online classes, and I only do it once a year. So this is the only day we give you 20% off the Fringeless class. So join us, and it'll be a lot of fun.
And thank you all for coming today. I mean,
Yeah,
wow. After all, whatever you've been doing the last few days, at least you US people with the
yeah,
Thanksgiving overeating, etc. I ate a lot of
totally.
squash. One thing about being a vegetarian at Thanksgiving, you eat a lot of squash.
Yeah, yeah. I had a big
But
pile of broccoli. So
oh, yum. Yeah, can't beat broccoli. Anyway, but yeah, food and fiber go awfully well together, and friendship. And I really appreciate so much all of you coming and listening to us and weaving and being on the gusset. And thank you, yeah,
yes,
for being your
Gratitude, much gratitude. Leslie, one last question, which is appropriate. She's asking about class details. And so I think you just mean it's an online class. It's a static class, so you can watch the videos whenever you want. There aren't there aren't live things unless we do something like this, which, you know, you never know, we might throw in something that might be live or a Q&A or something. But you can work at your own pace, and then there are places to ask questions, and we're hanging around asking questions and looking at what everybody's posting. So hopefully that helps a little bit. There's a whole bunch of stuff on my website at this um, thing, along with some videos that show you how it all works and trailer videos and stuff. So go poke around there, and I think you'll get a better feel for how it works. But you can always email or contact me on my website if you have more specific questions. I'm always happy to answer. Everybody's saying thank you, Sarah, and everybody had fun. Oh, Patricia, where does one sign up? Right here, RebeccaMezoff.com/fringeless. Or if you're having trouble spelling my name, go to tapestryweaving.com and look under online learning, and you'll find it. It's just tapestryweaving.com. And then there's a button there there's a bunch of information and a button there to help you sign up.
Okay.
And a lot of you are already in the class, and I also huge gratitude for being in the class, showing us what you're weaving, interacting with the other students. It's been so much fun to teach this class the last 6 years. So all of you, I know a bunch of you are in the class, and so we appreciate you coming and lending your voices
Yep.
and
and just
weaving.
being enthusiastic about it and making more tapestries in the world, which
Yes.
feel like an important thing to do for some reason.
It feels important. Yeah, making things makes a difference, at least for me. So
yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It is huge.
Logan says it's the best class. I've watched it many times. It also has some fun video. Thank you, Logan. It has some really fun videos that are like not about fringeless. Like there's one I think where we're both weaving on the same loom, which is kind of funny. There's another one where Sarah's just weaving for a while, showing you sort of her process and how she does some things, and that's a really fun video too. So. Oh, and Janice, I knew this was on my list of questions people had, weaving letters. Sarah is the pro of weaving letters. And so the question for many people, Sarah, has been.
Well, there's something in the works. I'll say that.
Okay.
How's that?
We're
beyond my actual misspellings here. In the work, I'm doing some drawings and stuff, so we'll see where or when or how long it takes, because apparently I'm slow, but I would love to be able to share doing this, because it's really ridiculously fun to get to weave your very, very, very slow misspelled thoughts into tapestry.
awesome.
And I
just
really would love more people to do that. So I'll just put it out there that there's something in the works. Don't hold your breath. But I'm we're cogitating.
We'll watch the gusset, because Sarah will tell us when she's got some letter stuff going. Awesome. All right, everyone. I know there was actually another question I got via email, which I will just answer that in person. I think it was Pamela. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I think it's time maybe to wrap this up and ask the rest of your questions in class, or whatever other way you'd like to ask
You can
them.
put questions in the comments of the gusset if you want, and I answer the comments. I don't. If you reply to the gusset, I don't necessarily see it, so that's not a good venue. But the comment section of the gusset works really well. That's the easiest way to get a hold of me in terms of just simple questions, and other people then can see them too.
Yeah, and if you have a question relating to what we talked about here, you can always put it on YouTube below the video too. So
I didn't know you could do that.
Yes, you can. And I get an email when you all do that. So this dog wants to get down. Okay. He's like, let me down. Somebody's in the kitchen. All right. Wonderful, everybody. Thank you for coming, and we will see you again sometime soon. Have a
Matching hands. Be well,
have a
take care, and we'll see you anon.
anon. All right. Bye bye, everybody.